What's up, guys? Welcome to the Stats Free Sports channel. No intro today. Let's get right into it. So, this video was inspired by my longtime supporter from when I first started my channel about 4.5, 5 years ago. So, I did a live stream, a live reaction live stream immediately after the Packers versus the Niners game last night. You can go watch it. It's still on the channel, about 20 minutes long. It was, a pretty cool video. But the person let me know on social media, he's like, hey, you forgot one thing. And like I say, he's a longtime supporter of mine, so he knows the channel. He knows all my video, most of my videos. And he let me know it's coming on 4 years on a particular video. And, I did check the channel. So it's been 4 years for two of my bigger videos back then. And back then for a relatively small YouTuber, it meant a lot back then for those videos to be kind of big videos. And one was Trevor Lawrence is overrated. That video went crazy back then. As far for a small channel, not crazy in general. But then another video that did pretty well for me was a couple weeks later. That's almost 4 years old, and that's Chase Young would be a bust. And he knew that. Well, I mentioned a little bit about the Niners defense. The Niners front four didn't do too much, but he wanted me to single out Chase Young. And look, this is no biasness. I'm not a Packers fan, a Niners fan, Commanders fan. I'm a Falcons fan, but I am unbiased. I tell my truth. I tell what I see. I don't go by stats. Like I said, this channel is Stats Free Sports, so you can definitely know I don't go by stats. I go by what I see. And back then, just for example, the stats on Trevor Lawrence at Clemson, the stats on Chase Young at Ohio State were all through the roof. And I said back then I didn't see it, and I still don't see it now. So, I'm kind of right on both of those now. Trevor Lawrence is good, not great. Chase Young is good, not great either. But on to last night's game, though, Niners versus Packers. I gotta say it though, Chase Young was invisible. Chase Chase Young was dang near invisible last night. But like I said as well, the Packers O line, they held up very, very nicely. They held up very good versus that Niners front, who have a scary front. Armstead, Bosa, Greenlaw, Young, Randy Gregory. I think, as I said before, I believe Love had no sacks. He had pressures. He had quarterback hits. I think 5 quarterback hits slash pressures came from Nick Bosa, but no one else really registered one. Not Chase Young, not Armstead, not Gregory. I think Kinlaw had a tackle for loss that I remember, and that was about it. And that really stood out to me because he got hyped, celebrated, and fell down. But other than that, he didn't do too much either. So, that defensive performance by the Niners were definitely concerning to me last night. And I did make the statement as well saying if the Lions beat the Bucks, I think the Niners will lose to the Lions. I really do. The O-line for the Lions is a little bit better, led by Penei Sewell and those boys. They have two good running backs, two great running backs in Montgomery and Gibbs. And if Goff, I know the weather could be, rain could come or whatever, but if Goff can withstand that weather, stand the outside, whatever it brings, I think they'll be fine. So we'll see what happens. But as far as the game goes last night, Chase Young had no impact. He was invisible. He was just doing cardio. Now, people on social media is clowning him for getting crackback blocked or sealed off by the wide receiver Wicks on one of those plays. I'm not here to do that because Nick Bosa got the same thing done to him by I think Christian Watson, if I'm not mistaken. So it was like Chris Watson seemed to be weaker than Wicks. So it was like, I'm not really. Was it Watson? It was either Watson or Dobbs or somebody. I think it was Watson though. I think Watson got Bosa, and then later on in the game, Young and Bosa flipped sides, and then they got Young next. So, I'm not really concerned about that or here to make fun. I'm just literally saying what I saw. And Chase Young did nothing last night. No, I think 2 solo tackles, no QB hits. I'm not a PFF guy, so I don't check the stats, but the pressures, I don't think he got a pressure either. I don't remember one or remember seeing one outright. He was really shut down on either side of the ball last night. And even in live stream, I said Bosa didn't play well either. He played better than everyone else on his front line, but he didn't really have a great game. He had a more impactful game, but it wasn't great either. So, but as far as Chase Young goes, I don't know what the future holds for him. He could pop out the next couple games, and have a dominant game versus the Lions or Bucks, and also have a dominant game or a pretty impactful game versus the Super Bowl team, whoever they play in the AFC, if they get to that point. But still, I just don't know what the future holds for him as far as any team. I think a long-term deal for the youngest out of the picture. I don't see that happening. He hasn't played well. But okay, let me take it back. For himself, to make him feel good, yes, he's played well, but up to standard, up to top pick standard, up to where he was or was supposed to be around this time in his career, he's not playing to that point. He's not playing up to par. But as far as having a good bounce back year after missing all that time with injuries, yeah, he had a pretty good season. He registered, I believe, 5 sacks with the Commanders before being traded. He got about 2.5 with the Niners. Decent pressures, decent quarterback hits, stuff like that. But when it really matters most, you find you can't really count on Chase Young. And I noticed that in the Niners games. He might have had 1 or 2 impactful moments deep in the game, but other than that, he hasn't really showed up. And that's something that concerns me because, even though I'm not a Chase Young fan like that, I still think he has some talent to him. I was even asking for my Falcons to might go sign him this offseason. He's someone who still has some potential in him, but it depends on at what price. And I have seen some free agent networks kind of speak, or free agent media outlets kind of speak on the estimate of what Chase Young could be looking for. And I've seen anywhere from 1 year to $15 million deal to 1 year $13 million to 2 year $30 million for Chase Young. That's too much for me. If I'm only going to get around 7 sacks, if I'm only going to get a couple of pressures, ten pressures for a season or something like that, and I have seen his PFF grade, not for the game, but I've seen it for the full season, for the regular season. He scored pretty well. I think it was 75 point something. So I guess that's a C plus or C, whatever. That's cool. But, like I said, the standard for him, he was a top pick. He should be 85 plus, 88 plus, 90 plus, and it's just like, man, he had a decent season. He went from a sorry team with a good defense from the Commanders. And, it is debatable, though, whose defensive line, whose front four is better, because the Commanders had Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Jonathan Allen, and Daron Payne. So it is debatable on whose front four is better. But the front four for Niners aren't no joke either. Nick Bosa, Armstead, Greenlaw, Gregory, who can be mixed in as well. Then Chase Young too. But he's not having near as much impact as he was with the Commanders' offensive line. So that does speak a little bit of volumes too. But yeah, man, Chase Young and Armstead did the disappearing act yesterday. It is what it is. You gotta call them out when you see it. And like I said, I didn't really call anyone out. Well, I called a couple of people out, kind of shouting them out yesterday. They had great performances, and Juwan Jennings, Chris Conley, guys who stepped up in Debo's absence. I shouted out the Packers offensive line. I shouted out the Packers front seven on defense. They played well also, But the Niners, to me, on both sides, on O-line and D-line, kind of disappointing a little bit, I guess. Not disappointing, just, I thought more of them. And they kind of got pushed around a little bit more than what I thought they would have on both sides. Trent Williams held up, obviously, but everyone else on the O-line for the Niners, a couple of guys, especially the interior, kind of got bullied by Wyatt, kind of got bullied by, I forgot the other defensive tackle name, but the guy that blocked the field goal kick. He made a couple plays as well outside of the field goal kick that I mentioned during the live. So, that front seven for the Packers definitely played well, along the linebackers Quay and Campbell. So, they definitely, as I said yesterday, the Packers had the game locked up. They just couldn't capitalize on the Niners mistakes. Plus, they missed a kick or two. So that really was the deciding part of that game last night. But overall, though, the Niners win. It doesn't matter what anyone says. They end up winning the game. But as I said as well, they're definitely banking on in my opinion, the Bucks winning for an easier ride to the playoffs, because if Detroit wins, and they probably will, but we'll see. The game still has to be played. If Detroit does win, it's gonna be a tough game. I don't like the Detroit's front seven as much as I do the Packers, but their O line holds up a lot better than the Niners do. And Goff could have more time. They do have better running back, or a combined better running backs. So two is better than one, and both players are around, or at least maybe below Aaron Jones level, but combined they're above him. So he's good. He's not that good to be above both Montgomery and Gibbs. Impact both together in the passing and in the run game. But Jones played pretty well. I think Montgomery and Gibbs could have impact on the run as well. So the Niners defense could be in trouble. They're going to need Chase Young. They're going to need Armstead to step up. Can they do it? Will they do it if they play the Lions? So like I said, it's all speculation. It's all a waiting game to see what happens during today's game. But that's really it for the video, guys. I don't want to pile on to the Chase Young narrative too much, but I had to address it. Had to, the supporter wanted me to do it, so I'm gonna do it. Do what supporter want, but I'm not gonna pile on and talk trash about him. But I definitely did notice he didn't really have an impact in last night's game, and outside, and he had a better season with the Commanders than he did with the Niners. So that's something that's concerning as well. Do you need to have a legit all-star Pro Bowl front four to have a good impact? Or can you be a bookend to a Nick Bosa? Can you go to the Vikings and be a bookend to the Neil Hunter? Can you come to my Falcons and be a bookend to someone else, or be a elite pass rusher? I don't know. I don't think he can. He hasn't showed it. So we'll see where it goes. But that's it for the video, guys. Like, share, comment, subscribe. I will see you guys next time.